Welcome to Backstory and Beyond with your host, Ward Camp, seeker, innovator, and president of Northwood Retail. As Ward travels the country, he'll share the industry insights he's gained over a 3 decades-long retail career, introduce you to trailblazing business leaders and disruptive founders, and uncover the real deal about some of the greatest cities in the world. This week, Ward is back in San Diego to check in with Andrea Van De Vort, founder of a collection of multi-branded boutiques with locations across North County, California. They'll discuss the dominant trends in women's fashion, the evolution of Andrea's own label, and how the business has harnessed the power of social selling to become a destination for both visitors and locals alike. All that and more on this episode of Backstory and Beyond.
I'm here today in beautiful San Diego with Andrea Van De Vort, who has a multi-branded boutique in North County. She started in Del Mar. I'll let her tell her backstory, and it begins with she was a biochem major, switched her major, worked in a showroom. So I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you for having me. So yes, born and raised in Arizona. I loved science. Chemistry was like my love language, which is super nerdy, but it just clicked for me. And I thought I would be a dentist. I thought it was a good job for a future mother. I would have office hours and I could use my science background. I worked as a waitress throughout high school and college at a really popular breakfast restaurant. So I'd have to be at work at 5 a.m. and I'd get off at 2:30 and I would drive straight to the lab in my waitressing uniform. And one day I was in the lab and I was covered in syrup from the breakfast restaurant. And I was just so exhausted. And I was just like, I don't know if I want to go to school for 5 more years. And so I called my older cousin. She's the oldest of 22 cousins. And she's always kind of been like a mentor to all of us. And she is a really amazing business person. And she said, well, let's think about what your passions are outside of chemistry. And obviously it was fashion. My family, every get together, we'd always find time to all go shopping together and find like the best things and see who got the best stuff out of all of us. And so I was like, okay, fashion, like, what am I going to do? I'm not a designer. I don't know how to design. I still don't design. And she was like, well, I have this friend. She lives in California. She's a sales rep for a bunch of clothing lines. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I immediately changed my major to business. I graduated early. I called my sister's best friend at the time who worked in LA in a showroom and was like, do you happen to know like anyone that maybe you could connect me with to have an interview? And she called me back 10 minutes later and was like, there's this woman, she owns a company called Miss Me, and she wants you to fly out right now and interview. And I was like, right now? I'm literally about to go to Costco with my mom. And she's like, no, right now. So I flew out about an hour later and I interviewed with the owner of this company and I got the job on the spot, flew back, called the restaurant that I had worked at for 7 years. I put in my notice, packed up my little 2-door Celica, drove myself to LA and started the next Monday doing the Magic Trade Show in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Yes. And so this was 2007. At the time, denim was a huge industry. So the owner of the company that I worked for, Miss Me, she decided, okay, let's focus not on like this beautiful collection of clothing that she personally loved, but let's get into the denim world. So they went from having 2 styles of denim to, by the time I left 5 years later, probably 100 styles. My biggest accounts were The Buckle and like all the Western wears, Macy's, Dillard's, like they were huge. They went from maybe 20 employees when I started to over 300. And after 5 years, I ended up getting married to my husband now, and he lives in San Diego. I was young still. I was only 24. And I was like, I feel like I still need to work more. I'm not ready to move to San Diego into a new area where like I'm not sure what I'm going to do. There's no fashion really. So I ended up staying in LA and did long distance marriage for a couple years. And I worked in another showroom and they carried all of the Australian labels, bringing all these new designers and brands to the United States. So I got my first look at all of these amazing, different, funky designs. And I got to see hundreds of boutiques. And while I was in there, I was like, okay, I like how they did that. I feel like I could do that better. I loved the lifestyle. I loved meeting with the owners. They always just seemed like they were having so much fun in the shop, having all the ladies come in and just having tea and chit-chatting. And so I was like, oh, there's nothing really like this in San Diego. There was nowhere that really had a good brand core and somewhere where you could go with your mom, your daughter, and your grandma, and everyone could find something that they liked. And so I decided that I would move to San Diego, live with my husband, and open my own store. Also, at the time, this is when businesses just started using Instagram for business purposes, not just people, posting landscape photos or wherever else they were posting at the time. There were a handful of designers that had a huge Instagram following, and the only place you could find them was either LA or online. And so I used some of their pieces in our very first lookbook that I launched before we opened, and then they reposted us. So San Diego and even Orange County people, they knew that we were opening. And so before I even opened, I had sold out of half of the merchandise because they were just so excited. They already like prepaid, and day one, there's a line at the door, and here they are to pick up their clothes and then buy more. And it was like an amazing day. I couldn't believe it because I had never actually worked in retail before, so I didn't know what to expect. And I haven't stopped working since.
What is your personal style? Just a weekday and then on the weekend?
It really depends on the day. Sometimes I'm just in like my jeans, t-shirt, and designer sneakers. I always have my accessories on though. And sometimes I can be super casual and, my cowboy boots and cut off denim shorts. It really kind of just depends on the day. I do love, love, love dressing up. I'm a total homebody, but if I get an invite to get dressed up for something, I'll go just so I can wear the outfit.
That's who you are, right? It's BDV,
yes,
right?
it's
You're
true.
wearing your brand.
It's true.
I think your style, a lot of it sounds like you pick up from travel, just seeing, at events in the store, what people are buying. But you're drawn, it sounds like, to Australian brands. It kind of makes sense that you were in a showroom where
that was all Australian brands. Yep. And that was like the very beginning of that boom. They've always been ahead of the fashion times just because seasonally they actually are ahead of us.
Yes.
So I think that has a big part to do with it. And then, I don't know, those Australians, they're just really creative.
Well, I think Zimmerman, is from there.
One of my favorites, yes.
That is a hell of a brand. It's Princess Polly that's rolling out of there for the more of the teens.
Yes.
We're actually working with them on something. But, you make a good point. Seasonality, Australia has a lot in common with San Diego, but also
they're basically 6 months ahead of us in time.
So you get to see it earlier.
Yes, exactly.
What's interesting is you're in the stores, you see it, what's the best seller. And, because I'm sure you have staples that you go, I can order 80 of these. Or, in 4 colors, and I know I can sell all of them.
Oh, for sure. Before anything, I think I am most business-minded.
Right.
If you asked me at any 20-minute interval of the day, I could tell you where we were at sales for the day.
Yeah.
I'm constantly looking at the register, which is maybe like a weird addiction, but I just like to, I like to know. I'm running reports every night seeing, okay, what was our bestseller for the day? Who did the best here? Like which store is selling what? When I go buying, I'm obviously drawn to more of the special, unique kind of pieces. But when you see the average shopper coming in every day, and even if they are fashionable, they're not like getting fully dressed to the nines every single day. They live in San Diego. So they're still buying denim and a great white t-shirt and a good leather jacket. Maybe something like a little bit more exciting than just a solid black leather, but it's still, pretty basic. And then I'll always make sure that I have, my handful of special pieces because people do come to us for exactly what that is. My favorite compliment is when someone comes in the shop, gets something that maybe they probably wouldn't have picked out for themselves because they think they can't pull it off. And then they come back saying, oh my gosh, I got so many compliments. Like, I need more of this. So yeah, it's just a balance of, being able to carry a little bit of that, but also enough of the everyday pieces.
Well, and I think fashion right now is going through this moment where the big shift is, athleisure wear just dominated for 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
And, people are going to still wear it. It's functional. But I do think one thing that's happening is denim, baggy denim, flared denim, boots are big, the shiny shoes, the flat. I mean, there's a lot going on,
Yes.
just what do you see in real time?
Yes.
Like it's in full motion now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And fashion's always,
Yeah.
cyclical roller coaster. When we very first started, it was very bohemian. That's kind of like what we went by. And then over time, it became a little bit more simplistic and, buttoned up, minimal. And I think now we're slowly getting back into more of a maximalism or, more is more, kind of back to our roots of bohemian, but maybe a little bit more refined. So more playful, ruffles and fringe and lace, more color. It's very exciting because that's my favorite way to dress. I think it's just more fun and creative than where we've been in the past.
Well, and I think the boutique or a multi-branded boutique has, you can edit, can scale up what she really wants, and you can spice it up. Like you said, you've had people come in, I didn't think I could pull this off.
Yes.
Now I need more of this.
Yes. Back to that athleisure piece too, that was kind of my thing when I first started. I was like, okay, you're out and about in your yoga pants, like you look great, but let's just put you in like a really good pair of jeans.
Right.
You can keep that same white t-shirt on and let's throw a cool jacket on and put some accessories on. And now you look like 1,000 times better, but you're just as comfortable.
Right.
And that's always been my thing. Like, just get out of your yoga pants unless you're in the studio.
One of the things we always think about with founders is the founder's mentality. There's 3 pillars. I'm going to be the insurgent. And I think you came in and saw this gap of, what were the kind of the tried and true women's boutiques in North County. And then there's managing the money or the business. At times you either over order, under order, or whatever. And then the last thing, I think by your prior comment about being obsessed with what sells, the front line, I think you're obsessed with the front line is kind of the third pillar.
And I actually am pretty much all 3 pillars.
Yeah.
I'm awake pretty much all night. I have 2 very little kids, and they keep me awake at night. So I'm just always basically on my laptop. But yeah, I am. I do a little bit of everything. Yesterday, I was telling my husband, because I was on the sales floor at Forum, which I'm not usually on the sales floor as much. But when we first open, I'm always, there to meet the customers. But I told him, I was like, I wish I could be on the floor every day. Like, I love it. And I think it does make such a big impact for clients to come in and actually get to work with the owner versus, walking into a big store at the mall and being one of a million. But it's just hard because then I have all my other work to do.
Right. Well, and you get to see, what they have or what they buy.
Oh, yeah.
And then talk to me about the brand that you started, your brand, VDV, about 5 years ago, and just how'd you get into that? And where's it going? And
I was at the trade show in Vegas, and I ran into someone that I worked with at the denim company, and they were like, what's good out there? Like, what are you seeing? And I'm like, honestly, like nothing. Like, I'm not excited by anything right now. And she was like, oh, well, I like know these 2 sisters. They own a brand and they own factories with their family. Like, you should talk to them. So I met up with them and we created the line. I threw together like all my favorite silhouettes that we'd had in the store before, told them like what kind of fabrics and colors, and they made it. And it was great. It was like our bestseller for a couple years. And then I was just looking at the numbers and I'm like, this isn't really making sense because of the way that like the deal was worked out. Our margins needed to be better,
Yeah.
basically. So we stopped that right after COVID hit. Because with these orders, we had to order a whole lot more units because we're special cutting it. And so our POs, which is a purchase order, is a lot bigger than an average PO that we would buy from a brand. So right after COVID hit, I used like the last of my money and paid for my huge PO. And we did sell through all of it during COVID, which is amazing. And then we just haven't kicked back up with it. But I did actually just recently get introduced to a girl who was one of the private label designers for one of the biggest online retailers based out of Orange County. And she is helping us with our next private label. So we're working with all of her factories that she has. And I'm actually designing prints and all that kind of stuff, which is exciting.
Very, very interesting. And then as you think about, growth or online wholesale, if you go into private label or just more stores, what?
I always said I wouldn't open many more stores, but I'm not going to stick to that because I really do actually want to open more stores.
Right.
I actually love it. I love the whole process of it. And my favorite part of this whole experience is actually being in the stores. And so I don't ever want to get rid of that. And if I can have more of them, then I would really love to. We do have an online store, and it's fine. It's one of those things where you just, you have to have it these days. But it's really hard to compete against all those huge online retailers that can ship you for free same day and all that kind of stuff. So my focus isn't so much on online anymore. I did put a little bit more focus a couple years ago, especially during COVID time when our online kind of blew up. But my heart and soul is more in the local brick-and-mortar kind of stores.
Well, I think everybody got caught off guard. We were with one of the senior people at Allison Olivier. We talked to several retailers, and this is only 2 years ago. All their money went to online.
Yes.
Didn't go to brick and mortar. And so they've all kind of had to flip.
Yep, and then it kind of switches back.
Yeah, and then it kind of, what the pandemic did, for online, the rise, and now, it's starting to just recede and level out. I think it's good.
Yes.
San Diego's gone through this transformation of being a tech town, one of the biggest brewing capitals.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of growth, new companies starting, Fiore obviously starting. That's kind of what always drove this town. And I think it's a completely different city today.
Oh, yeah. And you can't really beat the weather or anything else here. So it's a great place to be. And there's so much opportunity. So I'm excited for the future. We're probably looking more like down south to open our next. And then we'll see if I ever leave San Diego County.
Well, you picked the right spot in North County. And I think one of the things about San Diego, it is geographically, it's always been one of the tightest markets in the country. There's not a lot of vacancy. But in the right markets, I think, the numbers have probably grown exponentially over the last 5 to 7 years, I would think.
Yes, definitely. And, we have people coming in who are obviously able to go shop and buy at All Designer, but they don't really want to spend all that on one top when they can get a whole wardrobe for the same amount.
Yeah. I think your price point, there's a lot of value for what you get versus trying to be at the extreme end of luxury.
Yes.
I think, people will buy multiple things if
exactly
they see value, right? With 3 kids at home, just talk about being a mom, running a business.
Yeah.
I think it shows good work ethic that both you and Wes work, and they see that their mom works, and kids are kind of monkey see, monkey do.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely a juggle, and it's taken a lot of years to kind of figure it out, and I still don't know if I have completely, but it's more now at a point where I just kind of have to weigh my options. If I get invited to something here, or if I get asked to go to a trade show here, or whatever it may be, if it's not worth, missing my kids' guitar recital, then it's just going to be a no, and we'll figure out a way to do it online. But, I have a great team. I have an amazing nanny. My parents moved to San Diego after I had my 3rd child, so they can help out a little bit here and there. And like I said, I'm awake with my my babies a lot during the night. So I actually am the most productive in the middle of the night, which is weird. And people think I'm crazy because I'm sending them emails at 4 a.m., 2 a.m., all moments of the night. But that's when my brain really works and I'm awake. So I'm like, well, might as well just get to work.
Not going to waste the day.
Yes,
You're a
exactly.
maximalist. Yeah. So we like to explore what we call the real deal section. What do you think some of the best, restaurants, or what do you like to do in your spare time?
Yes.
How do you see San Diego?
Well, I have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So it keeps our lifestyle pretty kid-centered.
Yeah.
We love going down to the Shell downtown, and they will play like a cartoon movie and have the symphony playing the score live, which is one of the most amazing experiences. It's right on the water. You see the skyline of downtown San Diego. All the sailboats are floating by. It's something that you have to do if you're in San Diego. As far as restaurants, I love Waverly. They're in Cardiff, which is right down the street from me. Where else? Oh, Parakeet, obviously. Parakeet is one of my favorites, and we get to be so lucky to have 2 stores next to them. Oh, obviously, I have to shout out one of our brands that we own called Ashland Hard Seltzer.
Yeah.
We helped start that with our friend Josh, and my husband's the CEO, and it's all based in San Diego. So shout out to Ashland. We do spend a ton of time at the Forum.
Yeah.
My son plays guitar and trumpet now, so we're always at his concerts, and my husband plays softball, so every Sunday we're at his softball game. He plays with my dad and my brother-in-law, so it's a full family affair on Sundays. But yeah, I'm pretty chill. I don't do too much. I'm home from work and I'm on my computer cooking dinner and like playing with my toddlers.
It's multitasking at its finest.
It's busy.
What do you think's the one thing when people come to San Diego they should see?
Obviously, the beaches are beautiful.
Besides Van De Vort.
Yes, obviously. Please stop by my store. The beaches, Del Mar, Cardiff, love those beaches there. And Torrey Pines, we love hiking Torrey Pines. It's beautiful. It's an easy hike. It's not really a hike. It's more of like a slight stroll uphill. And then obviously the Shell downtown. We love going to the Padres games just right there in the middle of downtown. We take the coaster down, and it's a fun day.
And then is there a hidden gem?
Our new favorite escape is going to Julian. It's only an hour away from our house in Cardiff, which is crazy because when you get there, you feel like you're in Switzerland. It's beautiful, open. Our friend just bought like a 400-acre ranch, and the boys, the kids, they can, go fishing and shoot their BB guns, do target practice, tons of wellness up there. It's just like super relaxing and quiet and still feels like a small town, and you're home within an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's our new favorite gem.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Where do we find you socially?
So our business Instagram is Shop Van De Vort. And then we now have a handle for our Forum location, which is Van De Vort Forum. We separated them so that, we can make it like a closer knit community and actually communicate with people in the neighborhood. And my personal is Van De Vort, which is VAN_DE_VORT.
Well, I want to thank you, Andrea, for spending the time with us today. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Backstory and Beyond, hosted by Ward Camp. To learn more about Northwood Retail or the destinations from today's episode, visit backstorybeyond.com.